What's up, peeps? Nick Battle, aka NinosCorner, man. First off, if you like this content that's coming your way, hit that subscribe button. It means a lot. It doesn't cost anything to hit that subscribe button and like this video and hit that bell to get all my notifications for all my upcoming videos, folks. It doesn't cost anything. But, folks, if you're not looking at this on YouTube and you're looking at this or listening to this on the podcast platform, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Breaker, the whole nine, folks, anywhere there's a streaming platform for when it comes to podcasts. Like, comment, share, subscribe, 5-star review. It means a ton. Please helps me grow the channel so much. But folks, today we're going to talk about Steve Sarkisian versus the field. And when I say Steve Sarkisian versus the field, Sark versus the field, we're talking about Sark as a team builder at his first Power Five, um, you know, coaching tenure. And I was talking to some Sooner, friends of mine, and we are talking about Coach Sarkisian at Washington, and they said that Washington was an epic failure for Coach Sarkisian. I say no, it wasn't. I got a great counter to that. But prior to us getting into that counter, folks, let's give a shout out to our sponsors. Folks, our first sponsor is betus.com. Go to betus.com, type in the promo code NinosCorner, get you 125% sign up bonus. Folks, that's free money to bet on fights, to bet on games, whatever you want to do. Betus.com. Go click the link in the description down there, folks. It'll take you right there to it, and you get your 125% sign up bonus, free money. Second sponsor, folks, is manscaped.com. Folks, go to manscaped.com, use the promo code NinosCorner, get you 20% off and free worldwide shipping. Again, using the promo code NinosCorner at manscaped.com. But you guys can come in for that, folks. You guys come in for this content I'm about to bring to you about this Sark versus the field. And what I mean by Sark versus the field, like I told you before, folks, it's how Sark was able to build his teams in Washington, and we're seeing exactly how that is, working for him now at the University of Texas and how he's building this team. A lot of people love to forget that Steve Sarkisian, in his first 5 years, when he coached at Washington for his first head coaching stop, that team was 0-12 the season before he got there. And he was able to build a great foundation and leave that school. When he left, the last record for that school was 9-4. So in a 5-year span, he built a team that went 0-12 prior to him getting there to going 9-4 by the time he left there. He left the program in a lot better than what he found it. And we saw what Coach Peterson was able to do afterwards, but Sarkisian definitely, Coach Sark put the foundation in for that team. And a lot of my friends that aren't Texas fans, they love to rag on Sark and say that those first 5 years, they weren't nothing. But I got some examples of three coaches that are really, really good coaches, two that are great coaches, Hall of Fame coaches. And I went back and looked at their first tenure as head coaches, and I wanted to see exactly how they did in those first 5 years of being a head coach at a Power Five institution, and see how they stacked up against Sark. And you'll be very surprised, sir. Folks, exactly what you're going to see here. But let's get into the first um, candidate here that we're going to talk about. So let me share my screen here. And the first person that we're going to talk about, coach number one, let's take a look. Coach number one, folks, is, I'm not going to tell you the name. You guys will find out here pretty soon. So with coach number one, first off, let's take a look at Sark. Sark coached Washington from 2009 to 2013. The previous season record, like I told you guys there before, was 0-12. He coached there 5 seasons. He had a 34-29 record as the head coach at Washington. He was 1-2 in bowl games, and he had one AP top 25 finish. Okay, the coach that I want to talk about here, folks, the previous season record prior to this coach entering the Power Five. Now, let me give you a little backstory on this coach. This coach has coached a team that was in the Mountain West Conference, and they got elevated to a Power Five conference. And once they entered the Power Five, this is the first 5 years of this coach's Power Five coaching tenure with the school that he is currently at now. He's been coaching at the school for 18 years. So his first 5 years in P5 competition, he went 37-26. Mind you, in the Mountain West Conference, this coach went 10-3 the previous season. All right. So he had a bowl record of 3-0, and he had two AP top 25 finishes. Folks, who is this coach? Who is this coach? Well, let's see. Who is this coach, folks? I'm going to let you know who this coach is right now. That coach is Cal Whittingham. Cal Whittingham from Utah. I think everybody can agree that Coach Whittingham is a great coach, one of the top coaches here in the country. His time at Utah from 2011 to 2015, like I said, the previous season, that team was 10-3. When he was in the Mountain West Conference, he was coaching that team. And like I said, 37-26 was his first 5 years in P5 competition. Sark's first five, 34-29. Mind you, Sark had a lot more steep of a road and a steep of a hill to climb than Whittingham. Whittingham already had his culture in place. He was getting the players that he wanted. He had been there previously for quite some time. And Sark was brand new to a team that was 0-12 the year before he got there. So let's talk about exactly what Sark did and how he elevated his team at Washington. So prior to Sark coming, Washington's offense ranked the 117th ranked offense in the country at that time out of 119 teams, and the defense ranked 116th ranked team out of 119 teams as well. So you're looking at some horrible offense and horrible defense prior to Sark getting there. Now we all know Sark is an offensive guru, right? He's one of the best play callers here in college ball, and I'm going to tell you guys this is exactly how good he got that offense in a 5-year time frame to mimic exactly what he wanted and just how great he got that offense to be. After year one, that offense went from 117th ranked offense in the country to number 16. Year two, it fell to number 96. Year three, the offense went to number 25. Year four, the offense went to number 90. But year five, the year that he left, that offense was a top 18 offense here in the country. So he went from the 117th out of 119 teams ranked offense to the number 18th ranked offense in the country by the time he left the University of Washington. You leave it better than when you got there. On the defensive side of the ball, I told you guys he had the 116th ranked defense prior to him getting there. By year five, that defense was a top 30. It was the number 30th ranked defense in all of college football when he left Washington. So he brings a team that has 117th ranked offense and 116th ranked defense in the country. When he leaves there, they're the 18th ranked offense and the 30th ranked defense. Outstanding numbers. Outstanding numbers. You're seeing the culture, the foundation that Steve Sarkisian has built there at the University of Washington. Proud of Coach Peterson getting there and doing what he did, making the college football playoffs and doing his thing there as well. Great foundation for Coach Sarkisian. Again, let's look at Cal Whittingham. Cal Whittingham, told you guys, a 37-26 record there. And he had let's see, in the previous season, he went 10-3. But when he got to that Power 5 competition, folks, when he got there to that Power 5 competition, his first year, that defense, his offense was ranked 75th in the country. By the end of his tenure there, the offense was ranked 54th in the country. That defense went from the 119th ranked defense in the country his first year in Power 5 all the way down to number 31, all the way up to 31. I'm sorry. So you're saying that once these guys get in the groove and they're able to get their system and their program in place, you're seeing that on their side of the ball, we know Whittingham is a hell of a defensive mind. You're seeing exactly him change the culture and change exactly what that team is supposed to stand and mean for. On the defensive side of the ball, going from 119 to 31 in 5 years. And for Sark on the offensive side of the ball, going from 117 to 18 within 5 years before he left to go to USC. So that is Sarkisian versus coach number one. So, folks, let's look at coach number two. Who is going to be coach number two? This is going to be a real good one. It's going to be a real good one. I think you guys are going to be very shocked by coach number two. So when I take a look at coach number two, folks, again, I already told you guys about Sark's record, but coach number two, his first 5 years of coaching a P5 team, a Power 5 team. He coached 10 years at this school, and I only charted the first 5 years to give you just a comparison. The previous record from the coach prior to him getting there was 5-6. So he still had a little bit better situation than the 0-12 that Sark was handed. But over his first 5 years, that coach went 24, 31, and 1. They were 1-0 in bowl games compared to Sark's 1-2, and they also had one AP top 25 finish. That was season number 5. So you tell me this: any coach that goes 24 31-1 over the first 5 years, you're going to be calling for that coach's head, right? If Sark goes 24-31 over his first 5 years here at Texas, we're going to want him fired, right? We're definitely going to want him fired. Well, not so fast, my friend. Let's take a look at who coach number 2 is. Coach number 2 is none other than Mack Brown. Mack Brown, guys. Mack freaking Brown. The previous coach at the University of Texas, a Hall of Fame coach in college football. Mack Brown from 1988 to 1992. Mack Brown, his first 5 years at North Carolina. You see, folks, he coached at App State first. And then his first Power 5 head coaching job was at North Carolina. We understand what Mack Brown did at North Carolina. They had some great things happen. That's what propelled him to become a head coach at the University of Texas and do great things at Texas. And that's why he is a Hall of Fame college football coach. But let's take a look at Mack Brown's stats when he was at Oklahoma. I'm sorry, not Oklahoma, North Carolina. All right. So if you take a look in the previous season, when I think it was Crum was the coach there. I think David Crum was coach there. I could be mistaken. Don't hold me to that. But in the previous season, that offense for North Carolina ranked number 76 in the country. Okay. And the defense ranked number 28th. I'm sorry, I think number 78. I'm sorry, not 28, 78. Now, if we go back and look at Mack's tenure, his first 2 years at North Carolina, he went 1-10 in both seasons. Could you imagine if Steve Sarkisian went 1-10 last year and 1-10 this year? He would be fired by year 3. You know, I think people need to understand that it takes time to be a champion and to be great. What if North Carolina would have gave up on Mack Brown there? Mack Brown would have never been at Texas. He would have never got a national championship with a guy like Vince Young. He would have never taken the team to a championship against Alabama with Colt McCoy. And he would not be a Hall of Famer if North Carolina decided to fire him after he went 2-20 in his first 2 seasons. But he took that defense from being ranked as low in that top in that 5-year span. I'm sorry, he took that offense ranked as low as 103rd in the nation in that 5-year span up to number 35 in the nation in his 4th year. And by his 5th year, they dipped down to number 47 in the nation. But he kept that defensive side of the ball. He kept that defensive side of the ball hungry. They were ranked 102nd when he first got there. And by the time he left, they were ranked number 29 and 36 respectively in his 4th and 5th year. So North Carolina gave Mack Brown time to mature and marinate and be a head coach there and do great things. And he did that. Like I said, the first season he was 1-10. Second season he was 1-10. Third season he was 6-4-1. 4th season he was 7-4. In his 5th season he was 9-3. Right. So you got to give these coaches time to be great. Greatness does not come quick. It ain't instant grits, folks. It's not instant grits. My grandmother tells me all the time. Well, you know, like rest in peace to my grandmother, but she's telling me all the time. Things don't happen fast. It's not instant grits. So just think. If Steve Sarkisian goes 2-20 in his first 2 seasons here at Texas, we're calling for his head. Mack Brown goes 2-20 at North Carolina. They give him time. They give him another 8 years, and he builds a hell of a program so good that it propels him to be the head coach at the University of Texas, the same job that Coach Sarkisian holds right now. So I'm not done yet, folks. I got one more coach. that we're going to talk about here. One more coach. Let's take a look at this other coach, folks. Let's take a look at coach number 3. Who is coach number 3? I'm not going to tell you who coach number 3 is. I'm just going to show you his stats. Coach number 3, folks. Coach number 3. The previous record from the coach that he replaced at this school was 5-6. This coach coached 5 seasons at this school. Only 5 seasons. During this tenure, that coach went 34-24-1. He was 0-3 in bowl games, and he had 1 AP top 25 finish. Let me go through the record of this coach. This coach went 6-5 his first year. Sark went 5-7. His second year, this coach went 6-6. Sark's second year, he went 7-6 at Washington. The third year, this coach went 7-5. The third year, Sark went 7-6. In the fourth year, this coach went 6-6. In Sark's fourth year, he went 7-6. In the fifth year, this coach went 9-2. Sark went 8-4, didn't coach the bowl game, but that team ended up finishing 9-4. Who is this coach, folks? Who is this coach? Well, let's take a look and see exactly who this coach is. I think you guys are going to be very surprised when I show you exactly who this coach is. This coach is none other than the greatest college football coach of all time, Nick Saban. Nick Saban's first Power 5 job was at Michigan State. From 1995 to 1999, he did 5 years there prior to him going to LSU. Like I said, folks, he went 5-6 in the previous season with the coach that was there prior to him. And he goes 34-24-1. Sark goes 34-29. Saban's 0-3 in bowl games, 1 AP top 25 finish. Hey, guys, over a 5-year span, those numbers aren't great, but guess what? You got to let a coach be great. You got to give him time to be great, not instant grits. What was Saban's defense in his office? We all know Saban's calling is his defense. So his defensive side of the ball, let's take a look at that, folks. In the previous year from the previous coach, they were 60th in the country. Okay, Saban gets them. First season, they're number 26. Second season, they go down to 58. Third season, 28. 48 in his fourth season, and then he finishes at 25th in the nation. All right, so Saban, within the 5-year span, was able to get that defense down from a number 60th ranked defense prior to him getting there to number 25 in the nation, which we all know that is Nick Saban's calling card. It's the defense side of the ball. Now, the offensive side of the ball, that team was 47th in the nation prior to Nick Saban getting there. By the time Nick Saban leaves there, he has that offense down to 22nd in the nation. He had Michigan State rocking. Okay? Now, just to mind you folks, I'm not saying that Steve Sarkisian is the next Nick Saban, or he's the next Mac Brown, or he's even Cal Whittingham. I'm not saying that, folks. What I'm saying is, for a coach to be great, you have to give these coaches time to not only put in their program, put in their foundation, get their players in. You got to give them time to marinate and do great things and be seasoned as a head coach. And so those, I just gave you 3 really good coaches. One who we're very familiar with in Mac Brown. One of the best coaches here ever at the University of Texas, Hall of Fame coach. The other, it's only the GOAT, Nick Saban. And then the other, Cal Whittingham, he's not an up-and-coming coach. He's an established, great coach that garners results. And one thing that I will say about Sark when he was at Washington, the road for Sark at Washington probably rivals what Cal Whittingham has at Utah, but it's so hard to recruit at Washington. He had a lot more difficult situation than Nick Saban did at Michigan State. Michigan State gets their recruits. It is a contested rivalry with Michigan. So, you're going to have folks that go for Michigan, folks that go for Michigan State. Some kids are going to go to Michigan State out of spite of going to Michigan. Coach Mac Brown had North Carolina. We all understand about the talent in the Southeast, North Carolina, South Carolina. He's in a talent-rich hotbed, right? Steve Sarkisian is in Washington at that time. Do you understand what it's like to recruit in Washington? Do you understand what it's like to recruit against a USC and a UCLA? At the time, Oregon, with all the uniforms, all the hype, and the money from Nike. Do you understand what that's like? Nah, it's not that easy to coach in that state and to build a program. And Steve Sarkisian was on his way building that program. That's why I have the utmost confidence that with all the resources that Texas has here in this state, I think Steve Sarkisian is the right man for this job. So when I say Sark versus the field, I'm not saying Sark's going to be the next Saban. I'm not saying it's going to be the next Mac Brown. I'm not saying that, folks. But what I'm saying is we live in an age right now of social media. And with social media, folks, we want things right now, instant gratification. And I think we need to sit back sometimes and realize that if we had social media back then, Mac Brown wouldn't have made it out of North Carolina. He just wouldn't have. And I love Coach Brown. I love him to death. Nick Saban might not have made it out of Michigan State after his first 3 years. I read the numbers off to you. In the first 3 years, Nick Saban went 19-16 in his first 3 years, right? It was the same old from the previous coach. Mac Brown in his first 3 years, folks, he went 8-24. If anybody would be at 8-24 at the University of Texas, they're not making it out of year 3. That's it. So the meaning of this video, folks, is to understand that I think Steve Sarkisian is not only a really good team builder, he knows how to build a team, folks. We're on the right track here at the University of Texas. He's doing what he has to do to build this team the right way, especially with us entering into the SEC here no later than 2025. We're seeing that he's building the trenches. A hell of an offensive line class here for the 2022 cycle. And we're seeing the fruits of that labor right now. We're seeing a Kelvin Banks Jr. who's not only playing like a freshman All-American, he's playing like an All-American. He might be the number 1 tackle in the Big 12 right now. We're seeing a guy like Cole Hudson who's able to come in and be plugged in into that right guard position and doing some really good things. We're seeing the offensive line haul that we had for the entire 2022 cycle. We're seeing the offensive line haul that we have for the 2023 cycle. We're seeing that Steve Sarkisian is building the foundation of this program exactly like he built the foundation for the program at the University of Washington, and how Coach Peterson was able to take that foundation and do great things with that as well. But we're not going to need Coach Peterson here, because I think we got the right man here at the University of Texas, and Steve Sarkisian is going to lead us to where we need to go. And I got the utmost confidence in him. Once you go back and dig through through the data, look through the files, look at exactly what he has done at these other programs, you can't be nothing but happier for this guy and for the situation that he's in, but most importantly, for the kids that he's leading and the parents that are trusting their kids to him. So, folks, I'm all in on Steve Sarkisian. I'm all in on Coach Sark. And if anybody ever tells you that he was just blah, blah, blah coach in 5 years at Washington, I want you to point him to this video, and I want you to tell him, go look at that Hall of Fame coach that coached at Texas, who in his first 5 years at North Carolina, he was, what was the number? 24, 31, and 1. Go look at the greatest coach of all time in college football in Nick Saban. And in his first 5 years as a Power 5 coach at Michigan State, Nick Saban was 34, 24, and 1. Go tell him to go look at a present day guy in Cal Whittingham who lit it up in the group of 5, and he's in the Mountain West Conference with Utah. When they go to the Power 5, his record is 37-26 over his first 5 years. So yes, Sark, I think, had a tougher road than all of them. He took over a team that didn't win a game in the previous season before he got there, which means that he really had to build a culture, because that culture was a losing culture. He really had to build a culture. And you got to applaud him for bringing Washington to the position at which they were when he left. He left Washington a lot better than when he got there. So think about that for a minute, folks. We got our coach, folks. I'm excited. I'm excited for the program. I'm excited for the future. But on that note, folks, I got to go. It's time to watch some football. But I'm going to end this podcast like I end all my podcasts. Tell you guys to do you. Don't be afraid to fail. Outgrow your environment. Understand your brilliance. NinosCorner. I'm out. Horns always up. Hook them all day long.